Beloved Isles.
One beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you very much for joining us on what promises to be another magnificent Monday as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. Start off with our friends over at Health City. At 1 o'clock, we should chat with the good folks with the Civil Service Association, and then 1:30. Well, our friends at Department of Commerce and Investment is going to tell us some things, but hey, let's get active. Let's get into the lifestyle. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Sometimes, we say small changes to our lives make a great impact. And I'm honored to welcome to the studio the Chief Business Officer and NBA, superstar when he's asleep. None other than Mr. Shamari Scott.
Hey, good afternoon, Cayman Islands, and Dwayne. I thought you were going to say that we have two handsome individuals in the studio. I mean, we all know that's me and Grayson. All right?
So well, I would have said that, but I didn't want to lie on a Monday.
Yeah. I mean, two out of three. That's we're batting above 500 now.
Not bad. I mean, if we really want Susan to turn off the microphones, we could say, say that, but not today, man. But I'm glad that we come in, to this opportunity, and perhaps as we engage in this month with the NBA games on,
Yeah. None of the real teams are left, so
that's why I say it over,
So
I would like to see the camera back, Bluffs in the NBA sometime. But I want to share that to understand that it is important for us to have a couple of interesting approaches to life, a very healthy, active, engaged body, mind, and spirit, and that comes from our lifestyle, but our interactions. And as we get a chance to chat this discussion, maybe people will appreciate that. It takes, as my uncle was talking about, mind over matter, consider the effort, but it also needs to be resources. So join us equally as someone that, we know, we see, we laugh with, and sometimes, at as well, but that's why it's the Grayson McLean. Good to see you always, man. How are you?
All right, you, sir?
Oh, I am blessed, man. I am blessed. And I think back to, the willingness to come on and have this discussion, to days when, in your other professions, in your other comings and goings, the jovial spirit, the love for life, and now to see you in this renewed approach, it's enlightening, it's encouraging, man. So, good afternoon. I want to say good afternoon.
Thank you. It's amazing whole turnaround since 2017. It's been a great role in these almost 5 years.
And just to sort of begin, obviously frame the conversation, just to mention that outside of basketball and obviously outside of two of us, the two gentlemen in here that have good looks, and the other one that
is hosting
that has to turn up. That is a good thing. Yeah. Are you streaming now?
No, we will shortly, only because you're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know that perfect face of radio, as you would usually say, right?
That's what I say, man.
But just to mention that from a Health City perspective, the great thing is that over the many years we've been helping to obviously save a lot of lives, whether it's emergency surgery and or other surgeries that otherwise persons will have to fly overseas to get. We're able to do it here in the Cayman Islands. And one of the areas that we've always looked at was in regards to being your healthiest you. And there are certain situations whereby there are individuals that, for whatever reason, find themselves with a BMI of over 40, which means for men, it's typically 100 pounds overweight. For women, 80 pounds overweight. And there's certain other criteria that somebody would need to meet that we at Health City, through our weight loss procedures, a lot of people know bariatric surgery, would be helping individuals that meet certain criteria. And we have a full team inclusive of the psychological evaluation and help. So, we have dietitians, we have obviously the surgeon and or the other doctor that would do the procedures that are minimally invasive. Just depends on which procedure you would actually be doing, that agree with the individual over an extended period of time, ensuring they're the right candidate, ensuring that their mind is right in regards to all of the other lifestyle changes that will need to occur for the weight loss surgery to be successful. And going through that type of rigorous outlook helps you to ensure that as many persons who go through this procedure as possible will be successful on the back end. They're not in Cayman, but there are other facilities, other parts of the world that you can just call up the phone and go there and they'll give you a procedure. Not here. You have to meet the right criteria. You have to go through the right process, and then you're able to have the procedure. And the great news is that we have with us Mr. Grayson McLean, who not only is a patient, but also is a transportation manager for Health City. And Grayson will be able to give you his story. And we've told this story previously when he went through the actual weight loss surgery. But the great news is now on the back end. They're always saying, okay, we see what happens right away afterwards, and after the first 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. What does somebody look like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later? And Grayson is the perfect testimonial to show you that if you follow what the physicians are actually saying and you had the right mindset to make those lifestyle changes, this is what the end product looks like. So outside of being handsome, just like myself, unlike you, he's also doing his bidding and has definitely kept the weight off, and we can definitely have a conversation with him about that journey.
And I appreciate that, and this is where maybe we'll chat with, just generally speaking, but as aspiring policymakers and statisticians out there, longitudinal studies are important so that you have data that goes, financial analysis without regression analysis when it comes to looking at trends and series and the like. So Grayson, from our perspective, and I appreciate, Shamari adding, as he did, bariatric weight loss surgery, maybe Shamari can give us some of the insight into some of the processes and the types. But for you, if I can respectfully ask, what was the impetus? What made you want to consider this, and then what made you want to go ahead with it after you given some analysis?
Well, originally I just thought about it, but it came down to the point what made me make the final decision was with my daughter. She felt coming home she would want to fight a kid because they were making fun of my size. No matter what I did, going to the gym, changing my diet, it could go for 3 months and I would lose weight, but in the 4th month it would coming back. I couldn't keep it off. No matter what I did, cycling, boxing, just going to the gym, changing my eating habits completely. It didn't matter. It wasn't keeping it off. It just come back. So eventually, after that was the final push, I just said, let me look into it. At that point in time, Health City was right there, and I was working, and it made it easier for me to get all the info. And as Shamari said, it isn't just one of those things that you can go, oh yeah, we'll just go ahead and operate on you.
Mhm.
I went through about a month of seeing about 4 to 5 different doctors
Mhm.
before it was even approved to be sent to the insurance to be
Yeah.
dealt with. So I had to qualify to make sure, and and I had to understand exactly what was going to happen, what was required of me. So I had to know exactly what I was going to be facing after the operation and everything else, and was I ready to handle that?
Yeah. So the mental, physical, psychological, all of that, and everybody who, I mean, I say this because I think, for the most part, a lot of us know you. No matter where you worked before, no matter what you did, you're outgoing, gregarious. I mean, jovial. Just have a winning spirit and personality. And so seeing you, like many of us, we feel a little uncomfortable, clothes fit a little bit tighter, but you, to our perspective, you didn't look like someone who was unhealthy, who was inactive, who was sluggish. But there were other...
I was playing sports, but the problem was if you ever saw me run around the bases or trying to jump on the volleyball court, it was the after effects, or during the period you'll see me just bent over trying to gasp for air.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say, because Shamari shared that the part of the trigger was...
I didn't have to use Bengay.
Okay. Just checking.
I'm not old and unfit.
We can joke about it, right? But this is why I think...
We won't discuss when you both graduated from high school, okay?
Be careful.
We won't talk about what year.
I know who you're from.
What year it is, yeah?
No, but this is where I think, as Shamari referenced, we have resources like this, and it's not just the technical, the competence and confidence that we have in the personnel. Okay, you're employed as a manager for transportation services. You see the comings and goings, but it's about a genuine approach to what is going to be the outcome today and forever, the safe, successful outcome for the patient, irrespective. So that must be comforting to know that you have that, sort of peace of mind.
It is really good, because sometimes when I'm talking with the international patients coming in and they're asking certain questions about the hospital and stuff, and I get to talk to them from a worker's perspective, and then I mention about my perspective as a patient. So they get both aspects, and when they find out that I was 355, 360 pounds, somewhere around that range, and this is what I'm looking like today, they're like, wow. And how long has this been? 3 years, 2 years, and now coming up on 5 years, and everything else. So, like I said, it's amazing to get to talk to people, and that's why even in previous, I always used to leave message, say to people, no matter where you see me, you want to know something, walk up. I'm glad to. I will encourage anybody to do it. It's a big life change.
So as we go into the break, so I will come back. Maybe two things, if you can. You reference about the different types and lap band. We've heard in problem. No, I want people to understand. We're not talking from the medical doctor's perspective. But if you know some of the types, and of course they can always inquire and get consults and get more. And then Grayson, from you, the process. We reference it. You went through the discussions. What that was like. We talk more about. What are you doing now? How it's impacted you positively, if in other ways, give people an understanding. And this is where I think talking first-hand to people. Well, he who feels it knows it, they say. And we'll invite you to listen. If you have a question or comment you want to ask, share with us. 949-8037, or you can use a toll-free line 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
History has taught us that in crisis, humanity will always respond with innovation. What world-changing technologies will emerge from humanity's latest challenges? How can the Caribbean capitalize on the metaverse, blockchain, hybrid work, and more? Join us at the RF Economic Outlook Conference under the theme Future Forces, World-Changing Ideas, where we will explore the future of work, investments, technology, and more. The journey begins on June 8th. Reserve your seat today at www.rfeoc.com.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. ValueMed on Walkers Road or Town. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
JN Money. Money touchdown. Send the money now. Reach wow. You say you need some money, JN Money, I can send it in a hurry. Get through quick when you come collect your cash, or use a money card and swipe it in a flash. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah. Send and receive funds at any JN Money location. It's fast, affordable, and convenient. Money touchdown with JN Money. Send funds to any bank, yeah. Pay your bills quick, yeah. Low fees, you know what it, yeah. JN Money, we are pick, yeah.
Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And of course, we always want you to be as healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And I'm glad to be able to speak to the Bariatric and Weight Loss Surgery Services over at Health City, the Chief Business Officer, Shamari Scott, together with Grayson McLean, not just an employee as the manager of Transportation Services, but a successful recipient, a gregarious gentleman. And I think through first-hand testimony, we get a chance to ask questions that you shared. Shamari, not from the medical perspective, even if only if it is, I think sometimes as people, we believe that we type something into a search engine that's synonymous with research. So I always believe the best thing is to ask the experts and speak with physicians when you're looking for medical information. Mm-hmm. But just cursory.
But not to dissuade people from also searching online to credible sources of information in order to do research as well. But you overlay all that information, and obviously with the medical brain trust that would be able to also give you from not only experience but also from all of their studies, as well as seeing it in practice what really works. You're mentioning the different types of bariatric surgeries, and at some point in time we'll bring in Dr. Sunil, who will be able to go through in more technical detail what the various surgeries look like. But the first is you have the gastric sleeve, then you have whatever a lot of people know about the gastric bypass, right, which are two, and then you have the gastric balloon, which is more minimally invasive in regards to putting a balloon in and blowing it up, just your layman's term, right, and blowing it up to a point where your stomach can only hold a certain amount, so it's actually minimally invasively instead of cutting and whatnot, ensuring that your stomach shrinks in regards to what you're getting used to portion control and what you're eating, and then after many months you pull the balloon out and stomach has shrunk, and that's supposed to also help in regards to not feeling hungry when you have what would be a regular sized meal. Because even when we, for instance, speak to the dietitians, if they actually show you what portion sizes you're supposed to be eating, like even just using the fist, right, and saying that this is how much the portion of meat, 2 fists the portion of veggies that you're supposed to have, and you eat as many of those if you're still feeling hungry, right? And then if you're going to have, your bread kind, i.e. starch, rice, right? Then just a fist is all you're supposed to be eating at a sitting for a meal. Now, obviously, they'll teach you about healthy snacks and what you should be eating throughout the day instead of these huge meals that we're having when we're very hungry. That even within that kind of teaches you that we have trained our stomachs to think we need a lot more food than we actually do need. And if you're eating certain types of food that will be carb heavy and otherwise, the actual nutrition push you need for that energy comes very quickly and goes very quickly, and then you feel like you're hungry again. And that's why it's holistic, right? Regardless of what's going to happen is the physician will have the conversation with you. Make sure that you actually meet the various criteria, because I was talking about BMI of over 40. It can also be a BMI of over 35 if you have comorbidities that are associated, like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, sleep apnea, respiratory disorders that are based on the fact that you are, overweight. You have chronic obesity, as they call it, and you're not able to get the weight off. So it's seriously impacting your other health areas. And if your mind is right and you're ready to make that lifestyle change, and regular dieting and exercising hasn't worked for you thus far, and you just need that, like Grayson, I've heard Grayson say it before, you need that jump start. Yeah. Like he was trying and just couldn't. But sometimes all he really needed was that jump start to take the weight off so that he could cycle more and he could actually eat healthy and see the results and then keep it off. And here we are 5 years later. And just to mention that there is another procedure that's called the overstitch procedure that is an endoscopic approach by which the physician is going to suture through endoscopically, minimally invasively, to be able to help with these type of weight loss procedures. And that is a new procedure that Dr. Sunil will be doing, and he'll be able to explain all of the obvious benefits, from the end result, but also medically in regards to less risk in regards to that type of procedure as well. And Health City will be starting clinics with that shortly enough in June, and we'll send you all the information. And it will be weekly, whereby persons who think they may be the right candidates can come meet the doctor, understand if they are the right type of candidates, as well as what more they'll need to be doing in order to go through that type of procedure to be able to help you be your healthiest self.
And you certainly will have that opportunity to speak with the physician later on. And, Grayson, for different reasons, many of us look at her, as Shamara was saying, we want a quality life. We just don't want to add years to our life, but life to our years as well. And as you referenced, you've been trying, as many of us do, and nothing seems to. But if you get, as Shamari said, that kickstart, I won't ask you to go into which one you did, just only if you wish to share, but as you're doing it now and you're living, what sort of lifestyle modifications, if any, relative to activity, relative to food, how is your life now?
Basically, it's back to normal with a different size of portion of food, the hours of eating. The body doesn't take well to oils. So these are things that was causing me to be unhealthy, because you eat your turtle meat. I still eat turtle meat. I just found a trick how to eat it without the oil. But there's ways of little things like that, but I can't eat the portion. Now, my bonus is you sit and eat one time. I have it for 2 or 3 days. And you have to watch me eat for 2 or 3 days turtle meat.
So you win.
Exactly.
So, but it's interesting that Grayson said kind of the same, but it's not the same, right? Because if you listen to, that's a huge change that in and of itself. Right. If you think about, and for those of us that like healthy portions, and by healthy I'm talking about the size of portion, not necessarily healthy, right? But so need to think about that terminology. Those of us that like larger portions, right? Think about how difficult it would be from here on out having that, or in certain instances based on what you really like in that plate, having a quarter of that,
just a fraction of what you would normally want
in a sitting on an ongoing basis. How difficult at first that must be. So I know Grayson saying, oh, just a little bit, but a lot of the changes Grayson would have made would be difficult for us, all right, as a regular persons who have gotten used to eating those types of portion sizes. So I don't want Grayson to say, nothing really. Like it is a mindset change and understanding that in order to be healthy and what you need to do is eat this. And you can still eat some of the same foods, but you have to be disciplined. And I think it also comes to education as well.
Yeah.
When Grayson, I remember before you were talking about the fact that sometimes you didn't realize, how even if you were working late at night and eating after certain hours, certain foods, how that was impacting the weight. And once he was able to understand, then he could keep an eye on it and make sure that he wasn't,
I wonder too, Grayson, if, to Amari's point, many of us, maybe because of our lifestyle, maybe we just want to get that thing done, either for work or for family. We know we have to eat, we're hungry, because even if we haven't, we say, well, geez, it's been, since morning I haven't eaten anything. And with is it that you have that more immediate reminder, and then be the consciousness that, listen, I can't do this, and then when I do it, I have to do it in this way.
In the beginning, you get those urges because that's something you were used to. And where the mind, will, and power comes in is you just did all of this to become much healthier. So you have to be, as Shamari said, mind strong in this situation, because if not, you just go right back to where you were. You did all of that, you put your body through all of that, and you're right back to the same size. So if you're not mind strong on this situation, you can't, this won't help you. But once you start to say, okay, I can snack, and how the nutrition then taught me in the first year to how to deal with it was I packed little snacks so you can munch on during the day that would help you, and you eat your portion lunch. Then you make sure you eat dinner by 7:30, 8 o'clock, the latest. You want to give your body time to still burn off. Your metabolism is now very new. Back at this size now, your metabolism is burning faster than when you're a lot bigger. Because that was my issue. I couldn't keep the weight off. My metabolism had slowed down. So eating late nights and eating certain foods, I couldn't get it burned off. So the portions drop, but it's the type of food. Like Shamari said, little simple things that you and I would take for instance. You will say, yeah, I love my brown rice, or I love my white rice. Yeah, I love that too. But I actually love brown rice. And when I say brown rice, the actual brown rice, not the brown rice and beans. Because there's a big difference. There's a big difference in the healthiness of it and everything else. So my rice, my starch intake and everything has changed. I can't eat as much of it. I can only eat a spoon of rice. And sometimes I don't even get through that. But vegetables, my body has taken highly to telling me it wants seafood, so fish. And those kind of things now my body wants. It doesn't want the red meat, whereas before you could put a New York strip steak in front of me and you better have a couple of them lined off and I'm okay. Now it's put a bunch of fish in front of me and I'm happy, even count. And counts I'm limited because I guess there's a difference in texture or what it is, but I can't eat as much counts as possible, as much as I used to, but fish I can eat 2 or 3. But if you fry it, I have to leave it on a rack for about half an hour to make sure the oil is drained off, but I'm able to eat it. And like I said, the portions of vegetables, it seems like there's not much of an issue. There's certain vegetables that everybody's different, so they're going to want more of, so they just pack a little snack and they nibble on those things while at work. At first was carrots for me or celery. And when you got co-workers like I have at work that sat over my shoulder making sure, no, you can't drink a Gatorade, too much sugar. You can't drink this, too much. You got those co-workers that are sitting there, and then when you get home, you got someone else sitting going, no, you're not supposed to have this, you're supposed to eat this. So
that support system.
That support system is a major thing.
All right, we're going to come back from the break. Share with us, because I think more of us want to be able, like you did, to be the examples for our children, our families, and the community. But we also want to be around to enjoy and to add, to life as well. When we come back, as you share with us some more, we can talk about frequency of meals, and if it's okay, as you shared, everybody's different, but maybe there are certain foods now that you won't eat. You mentioned meat, or certain foods that you couldn't eat before that you want, and different things as you wish. Hearing it from the people directly makes it that much perhaps palatable, as it were. We're going to pause. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
The Cayman Islands Justices of the Peace Association will be holding its annual general meeting on Tuesday, 24th May, 6:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Yacht Club, 2nd floor. All members of the association are encouraged to attend, as the agenda will include the changeover of council members.
Are you a Caymanian status holder, or a resident of the Cayman Islands who is interested in enhancing transparency, accountability, ethical standards, and promoting awareness in public bodies? If you are civic-minded with the highest level of integrity, the Commission Secretariat, on behalf of His Excellency the Governor, welcomes your expression of interest for appointment to various statutory commissions. For more information on the commissions and candidate qualifications, visit the Commission Secretariat website at www.commissionsecretariat.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us in a few more minutes with the opportunity to maybe share with us the importance of health and life and lifestyle. And as we talk about the bariatric weight loss, surgery services over Health City, Shamari Scott, the Chief Business Officer, and Mr. Grayson McLean, not just an employee as manager of transition services, but as a patient who's going through it. I think many times as individuals we may share privately, with friends and family, and only sometimes limited. Reluctant because we're a bit reticent for whatever reason. I'm very grateful that you've been public, you've been willing to share, and you've been not just deliberate and determined, but through your efforts you serve as a public example what we can do when we put it in, we have the support. I was going to ask you about the meals and the choices, but before I do, Shamari, is there anything you want to maybe add so that we continue the discussion in the proper
Yeah, no. So just to mention, and we were discussing this on the break, is that the one thing that Health City always looks at is having the patient at the center. And there are many instances where persons do not meet the actual criteria, and therefore we won't move forward with any of the procedures. And there have been other instances whereby you may meet all of the physical criteria, but we're not convinced that you have the mental aspects right in regards to the lifestyle change, and therefore we won't move forward with the procedure because we want to give the best chance of success. And it's not about just doing the procedure or the surgery, it's about the best chance of success for that person. And if we don't believe you're going to be able to do it, we won't move forward with any of the procedures and or surgery. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. And as persons are listening now about the journey that Mr. Grayson had in regards to this procedure and surgery, 5 years later, you look at him, and as handsome as ever,
More so, I think,
Yeah, not like you, but we can't. If there was a surgery to make somebody look better, I would tell you right away.
Yeah, you see, ordinarily I would be okay though, but I had a good friend, and sadly, it's timing.
He just ugly. but no, just to state that obviously Mr. Grayson will let you know the journey that he has. But if anybody has any questions, 640-4040 or info@healthcity.ky. We'll definitely get back to you quickly and answer any of the questions that you may have. And even if it is to come to the bariatric support group and or workshop to give more information, we'll definitely do that. Or if it's to come see the doctor directly to have those conversations, that can also be set up. So 640-4040 or info@healthcity.ky.
All right, thanks very much. And Grayson, we have message from one of our listeners, and offering up congratulations. I want to know if they're if you had meals and on buffets and the like, because we as a culture, we like to sit and enjoy our meals, and there's sometimes we enjoy it as healthy, and that word that we probably should be careful how we use it, but good healthy serving. Do you avoid meals or the buffet or on buffets and like? I was asking about what sort of things.
Actually, I just did a brunch for the first time since the operation, and it was definitely a strange. Compared to the size portions of food I used to get, I found myself very comfortable picking at food I wanted, and I still ate what I wanted there, but I didn't get to eat as much. But that was fine for me because I'd left still happy and filled.
You had your muchness, as they say.
And, like I said, I got what I wanted and everything else. Now, meals, I don't find myself not wanting meals. It's that there's been once or twice that you're just so involved in exercise or work or something, it doesn't bother you that you don't. But I know I have to eat something, because if I don't now and I go eat it later, my body is going to sleep and the metabolism is slowing down because you're sleeping, so you're putting back on that weight.
So you're much more deliberate in your meal choices, your frequency.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself sounds like something we all know and should do, but we don't. With you now, that's consciously, hey, I ate now, I need a snack now. You consciously know what you snack, you prepare beforehand, and you make choices that are nutritionally wise.
Yeah. So, once you can get that routine down packed, it becomes very easy. So you'll find yourself going, I don't need to. I can grab an apple on the road or a pear on the road or a plum, or I make a little salad that can last me for the day. And that's what I do sometimes. I'll just make a salad, and I become creative with it. Tuna or chicken or shrimp or, just little pieces of bacon bits just to give it a flavor, different style, but it's a salad, and I can eat that. But after 6 o'clock in the evening, I don't eat salads because there's too much greens and stuff. So nutrition will tell you kind of got to back off because the acid and your time. So you don't, unless you're going to exercise. Like I'm now playing more softball. I started with the Health City volleyball team. All of these things that we do now. Cycling for me in the evening. Sometimes I'll just jump on the bike and go for a ride. I found where it used to be before I could only ride to the rise of Kimpton and turn around because I didn't want to tackle the rise. Now I jump on the bike, and when I look, I'm by the cricket field or going around Housay gas station, coming back down, riding to West Bay. And when I get off the bike, the way I'm talking to you is how I am. I'm not breathing heavy. I feel, and I'm content. I'm relaxed. My body feels perfect. The urge to eat, I'll just snack on something light, and that is it for my dinner.
I commend you for it, and not just for your discipline, but again, the courage to share. Because I think too many times, many of us look at ourselves and we know that we're not as healthy as we can or should be, but we don't necessarily do anything, and God forbid, It's only when something happens. And that could be because for some of us, we say, well, I'm not that fat or I'm not fat. A term I heard about skinny fat. So you're saying not just the weight loss, the self-confidence, but the heart health, for instance. Your cardiovascular health is improved. You're cycling and not as winded as some of us are sometimes, just eating some soup.
Yeah, well, it's definitely changed because the whole procedure showed when we were doing the testing, I was on the borderline of becoming a diabetes. I was having heart issues, skipping of beat of my heart. These were issues that they weighs into point, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Shamari, that makes them make a decision. How close are you to becoming diabetes? Is there another alternate route to take to help you stop the diabetes? These were things. My sleep apnea and things like these were all borderline of trying to figure out how much longer I had because I was there. And no matter how much exercise I was already doing and didn't feel it or couldn't see it, I was not physically healthy and I wasn't doing any better no matter what I was trying.
Yeah, man. Well, I pray that you continue to find and improve health, physical and mentally. And as you have shared just then and you shared always, anybody has a question about anything that you know that you experience, you're always willing to give them a perspective and all. And that helps. And that's what I think is so beneficial in a small community like this. Shamari, you gave the number, but there are many of us who look after our health in many ways and not quite sure the first steps. Maybe this would be an opportunity for someone to say, listen, they're going to give themselves this gift of life.
Right, and even at times, you may think you're at the point where you need bariatric, but you come in and you may not meet the actual criteria, but our dietitian is able to say, you know what, have you tried doing this, right? Some of the things, such as not eating, they'll go through evaluation of your eating habits and such, but not eating late at night, planning your lunches with snacks so you're not getting hungry. And when you get hungry, then you just want to eat everything in front of you, right? But having a snack so as to curb that appetite so that even though you're mindful, you can then eat healthier, or planning your lunches ahead of time and packing it and such so that you have access to the food when you need it at the right time and the healthier options to be able to get back on track. And sometimes those changes, even without any procedure or surgery, can help you to keep the weight off. In certain instances, be the healthiest you. And to Grayson's point, when persons are starting to get to the borderline where they will have these serious comorbidities that impact you at times lifetime, right? From a lifetime perspective, it may be best to curb it right now, and we can help you in other ways as well.
All right, so that number maybe
well, you know what? I know I haven't been coming on that often because it's right in the middle of the day and all that good stuff. But you forgot the numbers, or
no, man.
So what the number is?
So Shamari's personal number is 1-800. Wait, is it 640-4040?
There we go. 640-4040. And what's the email?
You see, Grayson, you see this guy won't put me. Is it healthcity.ky? So info at healthcity.ky?
Healthcity.ky is the website.
So info at healthcity.ky?
Info at healthcity.ky.
So what is it that I like personally? I mean, you forgot that?
What you like personally? Losing when we play basketball.
Listen, always a pleasure to
definitely. And I saw one fake Celtics fan peeping through that window. Not Miss Susan. That was Joel.
I want you to be careful.
Joel. No, Miss Susan is not a fake.
There's only one exit.
I saw him. I saw Joel peeping through that window previously. The fake Celtic fans in the house.
I'm only telling you this publicly. We're not responsible for your safety beyond that. So what happens after that? It's on you. Always a pleasure to laugh with you.
Pleasure.
Blessings. And Grayson, thanks very much for coming and God's continued provision and blessings to you, my friend.
Thank you, brother.
All right. We're going to pause and take a break. And when we come back, we want you to rejoin us. Stay tuned.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. A public meeting is planned for Wednesday, May 25th, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Constitution Hall in Georgetown. It is part of the ongoing climate change risk assessment being undertaken by the Cayman Islands government in partnership with the Centre for Environment, Fisheries and Aquaculture Science and the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. Representatives from CFAS and UKCEH are visiting Grand Cayman to facilitate the public meeting. In international news, 5 people have been killed and dozens more are thought to be trapped after an unfinished building collapsed in southwest Iran, state media report. The Iranian Red Crescent said rescue teams were searching for at least 80 people in the rubble of the 10-story Metropole office block in Abadan. Pictures showed that concrete floors and steel beams had fallen onto the street below, crushing several cars. Officials said the cause of the collapse was under investigation. Boris Johnson has been pictured drinking at an event in Downing Street during lockdown. ITV News has published 4 photos saying they were taken on November 13th, 2020 at a leaving party for the PM's Director of Communications. The BBC has been told that at least one person who attended has been fined by the police. Mr. Johnson himself was not. After the leaked pictures were published, Labour's Deputy Leader Angela Rayner said the PM had demeaned his office and the British people deserve better. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
I am Roshana Hydes, your Miss World Cayman Islands. The Miss World Cayman Islands 3rd Annual EnviroWalk 5K is on Sunday, June 26th, 6:30 a.m. at Safe Haven. Join us and encourage others to help achieve a more sustainable future. I'm racing against His Excellency the Governor. I'm planning to win, but maybe I'll be nice and let him finish first. Register now on ticketsplus.ky. For corporate discounts and more information on EnviroWalk, contact missworldcayman@gmail.com.
Subway makes it easy for you to stay on top of your health and wellness goals with our Fresh Fit menu options. Choose from 5 Fresh Fit Subway sandwiches with only 450 calories or less per 6-inch sub. Turkey breast, veggie, oven roasted chicken, Black Forest ham, sweet onion chicken teriyaki, or make your 6-inch Fresh Fit sub into a salad or wrap prepared with fresh vegetables. For a full menu and nutritional information, visit subway.ky. Subway, eat fresh.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vant Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thank you again for joining us. As we invite you to be a part of the discussion, we want you to call and share your thoughts. 949-8037, 949-8037, or 1-800-534-8255. Toll free with the kind compliments of Flow, 1-800-534-TALK. Use that for us here at Talk Today, but also when you call Mr. Art Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings on For the Record. That's 1-800-534-8255. And WhatsApp, still one and the same, 925-3261. If you were just on your personal WhatsApp and you could share your thoughts with us, because you know that's where our thoughts go, or if you have interested in giving us a call, haven't heard from you before or in a long time, well, it would be nice. If you think it's you with whom I speak, then of course dial us up and share your thoughts. 949-8037, or toll free if you can access the Flow toll free line, 1-800-534-8255. Again, for those of us who serve as examples, willing to mentor, to pour into the lives of others, to help navigate the paths ahead. Mindful that we were told we can't pour from an empty cup. And that is true. There are those of us who see these things and become discouraged because our lives are upside down. We're not quite sure which direction. The level of predictability that we had, the sense of consciousness that we possessed, sometimes are out the window. But the days unfold and we press on. And as we should, we press in. So give us a shout and share your thoughts and see where you are. And as we look at our wealth, let's not let it become a cliche. Let us actually take it to heart and realize that the true measure of our wealth is in our health, that physical and mental, spiritual health, the examples that we serve for others. I'll do my very best now to take an example from Grayson and to realize that we may have, through a very concerted, deliberate, conscious effort, made the endeavor and started to achieve, positive outcomes with improving our health, adopting better lifestyles, even doing something that we all know we should, in addition to exercise and getting, adequate sunshine, that is sleep. We know these things, but we don't. So maybe today will be a good thing. I say that to ask of you, as someone has said, this notion of a work-life balance. A few of you have recognized that of all the things that are unfolding, of all the experiences in the last 2 years, for those of us who have been able to successfully navigate, this remote working and learning, we see that not only we're able to get more done in that time, our clients, our customers are served better, and then we have a balance. I'll give you as an example. A few of you have shared in different sectors that by not having to go into the office by a certain time, you found that not only are you getting started at work earlier, so whether you had a half hour or an hour and a half drive from home to work, you're up as you are normally. You're either getting yourself ready, you're getting your children ready, you're doing the things. Now you have more time with the family, have time to exercise, and just to mentally, physically, or spiritually prepare for your day. Maybe you're getting started early. Maybe you're actually putting more time in terms of hours, but you're more productive because you don't have to engage with all the other things that happen in the normal interaction in the work day. Colleague will say something to you that may be a 5-minute or 15-minute conversation. As pleasant as it is, sometimes it just means that what is now 5 minutes has delayed you by 50. It puts you off your train of thought. You got to get back and get settled. You're able to do more. But you also find in that the productivity has increased, but also your outlook has improved. Perhaps as we look at it, we can consider more strongly the positive impact of this remote working. Now, I don't say the same for remote learning, especially having our early educators talk to us about our children and the need for that social interaction, that engagement that they get. Now, not just our children in kindergarten or primary school or middle school or high school, but even university, that need to physically engage, as they shared, is imperative to their overall health and well-being. It's important that they learn how to navigate, the social dynamics, the so-called, termed by many of us just in word, but not really meaning it to have any great import as we look forward on our resumes of way past when we talked about interpersonal skills, only to appreciate how important it is when we're on a team and we're trying to figure out, well, when should the product be launched? What is the branding? Or how is this particular project to be managed? How do we meet to come up with a consensus so that, whatever decision that the management committee, the board is supposed to take, they now have a very informed perspective. Well, those interpersonal skills are important. The words like soft skills, well, as a particular individual has shared, they're not soft, they're essential. And I should have to ask, what are we doing that could hinder the continued positive development of our people? And what is it that if we were, to employ, could make it better? And this idea that increasingly, for those who may have become acquainted with the term, telecommuting way back when, now realizing that it's probably morphed into the term, remote working. And the objective is that it reduces the congestion on the roads, it reduces the amount of emissions from our vehicles, but also improves our mental sort of focus, because it takes away some of the stress that we have getting to work or what we may encounter at work, given the dynamics of the individual. Now, one caveat, a few of you have indicated that not only their co-workers, but their supervisors, their managers seem to have a view that it doesn't matter what you do as much as it is, where you do it. The fellow indicated that he could be at work from 8 a.m. to noon at home and probably have gotten more than a day's work if he was in the office. And even though the 15 widgets have been, produced and sent out, the managers, the bosses, don't see that. As long as he was in the office for 8-10 hours and only had 5 widgets, in their minds, that's much better than the 15 that he would have had in, half the time. Well, we have to look at that to see what that means for us and what is the cost and the consequence. As he was sharing, if the demand, by the public is for a government to invest in infrastructure, whether some sort of, high transit system to move a lot of people across the country so they can get not just safely but timely from work to home or thereabouts. And if that cost and that time delay of development, construction and the like could be somehow mitigated by more of us working, as we now term it, remotely, would that not be better? Still invest in that infrastructure, but would it not be better? For some of us, the answer is overwhelming yes. For others, well, let's wait and see. Now, not just that, but what about the exercise? What about the safety of those who are running, walking, or cycling on our roads? If there are less traffic, maybe there'll be more of us doing that. Maybe if there are days where, and as we've seen, governments are trying to have initiatives where you're biking to work, you're cycling, you're walking, you're somehow using an alternative means, not as a marketing ploy, not just as some fad, but as a concerted effort to make us healthy. Think about some of the places. Now, I know over a quarter century ago, it sounds like a long time, in the west coast of the Portland, Oregon, they had this bike share program. If I recall it correctly, the bikes looked like they were painted yellow with a paintbrush. Not necessarily the most attractive. I've told that since those bikes are no longer in use in that fashion, but they were free bikes as an initiative, and you picked up one and you rode it around and you put it down and someone else got it. And it helped to do a number of things. well, maybe we could consider that. Or we see, even at the new government building, something similar being used. You sign up, you take the program, and you move the bikes. Well, if our roads are perceived to be safer, maybe more of us will use it. Maybe it's a chicken and an egg. Maybe the more of us that are pedestrian or cyclists, maybe we may see less cars and maybe it'll be safer. But what has to happen first? More of those and less cars, or less cars so you get more of those? Well, interesting dynamic. 8949-8037, toll free at 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. And then the other thing that we had was a number of individuals asking questions relative to two things that continued, as they just said, aggravating conversation about beach accesses. Not just they're blocked in many ways deliberately, but the fact that even those that are supposed to marked, they're not as accessible. They may be for a few feet in, and then as you walk, you realize that from construction debris to overhanging limbs, including some of the prickly ones like bougainvillea, like quite a beautiful, but can be a bit to navigate. Now, one lady said, she wants to commend what seems to be a concerted effort with the labeling and clearly identifying of some of these accesses, but perhaps more can be done by the general public, including their property owners, for whom there should be marked accesses, but for whatever reason they choose not to. And then in addition to that, the eroding coastlines. Some of you have shared images where it would seem that some of the properties are experiencing a bit of sort of receding beaches and potentially undermining some of the structures, from the patios to even the physical building and the like. And then the idea of governments trying to remediate and spend tens of millions of dollars, whether it's nicely termed beach replenishment programs, or trying to figure out. And some of you asking, to what extent is the public involved and informed and sufficiently prepared to engage the government so that they understand that what they're trying to achieve, not only should there be a buy-in from government and the public sector together, but the idea that if we don't have that level of engagement and the like, we may end up with something. And I'm looking at a comment because I wanted to read it verbatim, and I don't see it. Literally, I don't see it because it was sent across in a different format by a number of other individuals, and it spoke to the whole issue of democracy being a very sort of fragile thing, and one that is easily compromised and lost in the absence of a concerted engagement by the voting public in particular. And in the absence of that, you may end up with a scenario where increased power is in the hands of a few, whether it's used and abused consciously to exploit, or whether it's just by default, when no one else is doing, let us exert our influence. And it speaks to a story that I would like to have relayed that talks to that whole issue, that you can't have a democracy in absence of public participation, and not just an invitation by elected or appointed officials, but a conscious, deliberate, concerted effort by the general populace to remind those who are elected and appointed that in a democracy they're there to serve the greater good, and it isn't for them to take it on their own and to believe that silence is acquiescence, or to believe that while they occupy office that they have the wherewithal to do as they wish. They're merely there to be the guardians, to be those that maintain a semblance of civility, and through their actions they serve as uncompromising examples. If I find the story, I'll relate to us. But I share that because sometimes you get something from someone and you get something similar or the same thing from somebody else. And even though you may be that shared contact for those individuals, from your limited perspective, those individuals don't necessarily run in the same circles. Now, the communities being small, it's not impossible that they'll overlap. And certainly if your friends are the friends of each of those. And that struck me because I don't think how we stop to appreciate how our lives are interdependent, how our lives overlap, and how the actions impact and affect all of us. We would quite rightly appreciate that a government decides it's going to build a road or not build a road, continue a program or start a new program or just discontinue the program. Well, would that affect just those who are the recipients of that, or would it be something that affects all of us in some way? Well, increasingly, we're seeing that the world is perhaps, for some extent, a bit more unpredictable, a bit more interactions, tentative with regard to our investments, our proposed plans for travel, even for some education, and for some that may even be the reverse. We may say, well, it's unpredictable, so let's make hay while the sun shines, and we're going to throw caution to the wind and press on as if today is our last. Well, maybe our mindset and our past experiences will help us to dictate and define our future endeavors. Well, give us a shout and share a thought with us. 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. If you want to use the Flow toll-free line, or WhatsApp 925-3261. There was something that one listener had asked us to look into, and to that one listener, not only because it was just one person, it doesn't mean that others aren't asking about it. It just means that that one person is either sufficiently encouraged, motivated, that it's important. It was asking about the issue of governments, not just this government, and not even the actions of past governments, but governments to come. And he said that it's oftentimes we look back to a historical record and believe that informs us, so we would be prone to repeat things that are good, or to at least be aware of the things that weren't so good. But he shared that too often in the Cayman context, with the pace of development, the expectations of all of us, that government should be doing this, they should respond to that, and is concerned about, well, what will happen, not just 10 years from now, but even in decades to come, relative to how our roads are used, whether road corridors are reserved, whether the pace of development is actually going to be beneficial, not just in the short term, providing that return, but for future generations. He said, if you give it as an example now, and you do as he has done in the circles that he run in, and asking the young people, and I asked, well, what age are you talking about? He said, well, let's start with under 25, and let's ask not just the returning college grad, but let's also ask the person entering high school. And he was surprised to find that two things: the level of awareness and interest seems to be very much connected with both of them. Their concerns about, well, is there available land? And if there is, will they be able to afford it when they're ready? He said a young college grad got their, sort of the postgrad diploma, spent some time, working for a short time in another jurisdiction, and has returned home and found that the property that he has, because of the prudence of family to help him to acquire it way back when, it puts him in good stead compared to some of his contemporaries. But the challenge isn't only that he find it difficult to source materials, but the cost to build, and is wondering to what extent will it make it impossible for him now to do what he thought was part of his expectation, his dream, to own a property, to be able to put down roots, as it were. And the gentleman shared that as he had this discussion with this college grad, and then had it with a few other of the youngsters, in their mid-teens and looking towards graduating from high school, he's seeing that increasingly there's this growing sense of disconnect, that they don't see a future for them in this country. Now, that may be a small group, but he shared, what if it isn't? But even if it is, what does that mean for them? Do they see a future? Will they decide that it doesn't make any sense to invest heavily in their education? Not just because they have to spend the money, but they may have received a scholarship. But what is the point of that sacrifice if it's going to amount to a very limited, if any, improvement in their standard of living, their quality of life? Now, he shares that if this is happening in a young nation, what will that be like in decades to come? What he shared, that he said, there's an indictment on us, and he was pointing to us, the older folks, and he said especially, those above 50, those for whom we have been interested in higher office, we have been involved in community service, either through our churches or schools or service clubs, even politically. What are we doing to give a sense of hope and encouragement to that younger set? And if we are not conscious of what they may be thinking, not only are we going to risk, those individuals leaving Cayman to, in their minds, find greener pastures elsewhere, but for those who stay, will they just bounce about with a aimless, a sense of despair? Well, I appreciate the things that he has shared over the years, and what his thoughts have, resonated with me. They're quite sobering. We're going to pause and we're going to take a break. When we return, we're expecting our good friends from the Department of Commerce and Investment to join us. We're going to share about some things that that they want to ensure the public is aware of. And when we return, we invite you to be part of the discussion. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Due to infrastructure upgrades, customers on Woodland Drive and Walbridge Drive off Shamrock Road in Lower Valley will experience interruptions to their electrical service on Wednesday, May 25th between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. For more information on the outage, please contact CUC's customer service team at 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Stay clean, stay safe, hey man. Reflections sells gallons of sanitizer for only $25. Buy 2 clip-on sanitizers for just $5. Reflections has the best KN95 masks or reusable cloth masks, and you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections. Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of Absolute Exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low, we can't say them on the radio.
Praise time.
Hold my hand today. Let's fall. Praise him. Isn't it great when he's 4 days late? He's still on time. Praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
I'm free from the fear of tomorrow. I'm free from the guilt of my past. Oh, and I found the answer down on my knees. Oh, yeah.
Praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks too for the opportunities to reach out to the various departments and sections within our government to be able to give our people a chance to not only understand, appreciate the extent and scope of our work, but the importance of it, but how to access and how together we can partner, because at the end of the day, I think we're looking for a safe, stable civil society where we're all stakeholders. And for the Department of Commerce and Investment, the Head of Compliance and Enforcement, that's Claudia and Brady. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
All right. I hope it's okay to say it's always a pleasure to speak to my fellow civil servants. You collectively encourage me to want to be the very best public servant, to remind me of why we have this call and this journey within our spirit and our soul to be of value to our country. And it's, I can only imagine to some limited extent, it's like that person who signs up to be a part of the armed services, to go to defend freedom and democracies. Thankfully, we're in a time of sort of civility, and we don't have to worry so much. But despite all that's going on, and we can share, we can volunteer, but we can also train and use our experience and our expertise to serve our country.
Yes,
and
we can.
The civil service to me is an honor to be a part of. So I've always been a public servant. Who knows,
Myself too. More than half my life.
Okay, so for 15 years now.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm honored that we have a wonderful place to work and to live. So, now, if I might, the Department of Commerce and Investment over the years, some of us have probably come to understand its function. We probably increasingly familiar with it relative to trade and business licensing, and the grants and the different things. And as government becomes more efficient and reformed, we see things merged and the like. So, your movement from where you were before to where you are now, just part of that continuing service.
Yeah, DCI has actually, in the last, I would say, 5-6 years, have blossomed into something different than what it started out to be.
Yeah.
And responsibilities are different. Responsibilities have increased, and many persons don't really understand anymore what we do. They hear DCI and it's only about my business license.
Yeah.
They don't think about anything else.
Yeah.
But hopefully today, after this session, people will have an understanding or a better understanding of all the things that we do at Department of Commerce and Investment.
I think this is where we start to appreciate. The more that we understand, the better we are not only positioned to ask appropriate questions, make the inquiries, but also navigate a system so we can get things. But on the legislation, what are some of the responsibilities of the Department of Commerce and Investment?
Well, in a nutshell, what DCI does now is that we are still responsible for licensing all the businesses within the Cayman Islands that are actually in the commerce space, because there are other things operating in different spaces, but in the commerce space, for example. So we license those businesses. We also have responsibility for inspecting all the businesses that are operating within the commerce space. And under various laws, we have the trade and business licensing law. We have responsibility for the liquor licensing law, the music and dancing law, tobacco law, special economic zone, local companies control licensing laws. So that's just a variety of the licenses that we have responsibility for enforcing.
You just see that just somewhere. That's a lot. Even in itself, that was all.
But separate and apart from that, DCI also have a regulatory responsibility, which we're not going to talk about today because that's a whole other arm of DCI. We're under. I'm sure you've heard about the Financial Action Task Force and the requirements for anti-money laundering and countering of terrorist financing. We also do have a responsibility for regulating a specific section of that space. Those who operate in real estate and dealers in precious metals and stones. We also have responsibilities for regulating them under the anti-money laundering regulations, which is a whole different requirement.
To some could be, because then when you look at that, that's an element of sort of financial implications, but separate up and distinct from what the monetary authority would do relative to, say,
definitely.
And this is more of us as we even look at careers. We would know where we want to go, and entering the public service helps us to use our skill sets. But you talked about trade business license and special economic zones and all of those, and even the LCCL or liquor licensing. There are a lot of things you have to do with respect to that. Maybe we could ask, other than the banks, the insurances, the reinsurances, are there other areas where you're as DCI, you don't regulate, you don't license, or that's mainly the specific areas?
Well, we don't license financial institutions. We don't license, say, law firms, because they operate under separate legislations. So, and of course, the utility providers, we do not license, but every other business that operates within a commerce or have some degree of commerce element, selling and operating as a retail, or we license construction, we license pharmacies who retail, but the medical aspect of, say, a pharmacy, we do not license because they come under a different legislation and are licensed by a different entity. So if you sell clothing, you sell car, you're a contractor, you do janitorial services, we license you. You sell beer, you sell wine, you sell cigarettes.
Your restaurant.
Your restaurant, of course, if you're operating, we all across the board, as long as it's considered and outlined in our trade and business licensing law. There are a list of activities at the back of that license. All of those we do license.
And you reference music and dancing. Sometimes we see that synonymous with like a license, but
yes, they go together mainly. Yes.
All right. So if I would ask you, what businesses that operate are required to have almost all. If you are retailing something,
yes,
it's almost an exhaustive list.
If you're building something, you're selling something, you're cleaning something, DCI is the place that will license you.
From that gardener to the ice cream shop.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
All right. Now, I would imagine, like anything, maybe not the best example, but we're say familiar with planning, and you want to get your CO for your home because it's Christmas, you want to move in, for argument's sake.
Yes.
Or you get married and you want to move into your house before you go on your honeymoon. Planning has an inspection process. You go through, and then the final, I guess, is the electrical comes out, and they go through it, and you get the CO. Is it similar with businesses to get inspected by the DCI trade officers? What businesses are subject to inspection? All?
Well, we don't conduct pre-inspection for licenses to be issued. There are a list of questions that have to be answered by an applicant. Once the board is satisfied that they've met the criteria, they will get their license. On many occasions, for a liquor license to be issued, the Liquor Licensing Board will ask for us to do an inspection prior to a license being issued to ensure all the questions are answered. For example, if you are selling alcohol, say from a gas station, the board wants to be satisfied that wherever the alcohol is going to be stored, children do not have easy access to it. So the trade officers will go out and do a pre-inspection and report to the board to say wherever the liquor is going to be stored is secured enough or can be secured that children will not have access to it, or it will not be accessible outside of the permitted hours. So in those circumstances, there will be an inspection. If you are opening a restaurant and you apply for a license, there are occasions when the board will ask for the trade officers to do an inspections because restaurants are licensed based on their number of seats. So someone will put on their license, I have 10 seats, when in fact the trade officer goes out and they have 30 seats. So the category or the cost will be different. Their license fee will be different. So the trade officer will come back and report that to the board to say they've applied for 10 seats, but they in fact have 30 seats.
Right.
So the fees will be different. Under those circumstances, they will ask for an inspection, but it's not something that happens on a daily basis.
So not only, and I'm just asking this as I listen to you, not only is that potentially less revenue for government because 10 seats versus 30 seats.
Exactly.
But depending on the space, a safety concern.
Exactly.
Now, with that in mind, age, and you talk about the gas station and accessibility for the minors. Maybe this is a question that everybody knows the answer to, but just for my benefit, we have liquor stores that are separate and distinct from other jurisdictions where you go into a pharmacy, or you go into a what we call it, the shop, the grocery store.
Yes.
And liquor of all choices, sometimes the best selections are right there. Some of the big stores in other countries, right next to the clothing, one aisle over is your beverage of choice. In the Cayman context, the standalone liquor stores, do you have to be a certain age to enter that, or is it you can go in there, you just can't buy?
You can go in there, you just can't purchase.
Okay.
So, I've actually had questions asked about, your ID.
Yeah.
Right? So
I can understand what you're asking. I'm glad you did.
But I have been being into, standalone liquor stores, or even, the corner shop that will sell some liquor. The attendees or the cashiers would normally ask, what's your age, or ask you for an ID. They have that right to do that, especially if you look too young, and if you don't produce your ID or able to justify to the cashier that you are of age, they have the right not to sell you either. Because if they do sell, of course, they're breaching the legislation.
Right,
and they can be prosecuted, of course.
All right. And as we go into the break, what about the standalone liquor store? So just for clarity, you can go in there, but if you don't provide sufficient identification to the attendee, then you can be refused service.
Exactly.
What about I call them bars. I mean, maybe it's a different term these days, but are you legally allowed to go into premises like that under the age of 18 in this country?
No.
Okay.
No.
Liquor store, yes. Bar, no.
Yeah, because the liquor not necessarily, the corner store will sell liquor plus other goods.
Right.
So they're free to go in because you're not necessarily going to buy
the corner
liquor.
Store. Okay.
Liquor store, normally a standalone liquor store, you would find underage persons who would attend those places with an adult who are going to purchase. But no underage person would be able to go into the liquor store and purchase anything, especially if it's alcohol alone they're selling.
Right.
If they're going to a restaurant that serves alcohol and you're with your family, you can be a patron with your family, but you cannot order alcoholic beverages.
But you can go in there. You can go in. You just can't be served, but you can go into these premises, but you cannot go into
to be a patron,
a bar room where there's only alcohol.
To sit at a bar and order a drink, or even enter a bar and try to be a patron in there, because it's you can't go into a nightclub, because the only thing that happens in a nightclub is alcohol sold. If there is a separate entry to a restaurant, you can go in as a customer with your family and sit and have a meal. You just cannot be served. But you will not be permitted entrance into a nightclub or anything of that nature.
Well, I certainly appreciate you sharing that. We do have a short break. We'll take it. Hopefully, welcome your colleague as well, and we return. And this is where I think people may take for granted that they know and perhaps are not as informed as we can be. So thanks for this opportunity as we learn more. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Make your house into a home. Welcome to Brand Source Home Gallery, your source for premium products and a premium experience. We'll design and install your dream kitchen with crafted cabinets, complemented with elegant appliances. We'll fill it with quality houseware and cookware. Custom-designed closet and storage solutions organize and beautify any area. And with the finest bedding, you'll get a perfect night's sleep knowing Brand Source Home Gallery has everything you need to make your house a home.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
The Spring Labor Force Survey is currently being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office. The Labor Force Survey collects data on employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit randomly selected households in all districts. The interviewers will exercise appropriate COVID-19 protocols using personal protective equipment. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the statistics law. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from freedom of information. For more details, please call the ESO on 516-3329.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us in the studio as a chance to maybe learn more about the Department of Commerce and Investment, and in particular some of the things that are transpiring. We have the Head of Compliance and Enforcement, Ms. Claudia Bradley, and join us as well from the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate, Chief Inspector, Ms. Winsome Prendergast. Good afternoon, Ms. Winsome. Thank you too for coming over. How are you today?
Oh, I'm excellent,
well,
it's a good day.
I don't think many of us would disagree with that. Yeah, it's a wonderful day indeed. And as you were chatting, though, we see increasingly more and more things transpiring. A lot of us want to be compliant. We want to understand that we're doing the right things, and sometimes maybe we don't see the urgency or the importance. Maybe we're a little bit too casual. Mm-hmm. Some of us are cavalier, as it were. You were talking about inspections and what is required, and I appreciate particularly you reminding many of us that unlike other jurisdictions, we have an age at which it's legal for you to go into a licensed premises that sells alcohol only. Yes. So if I can repeat it, not for, not to belabor it, but if it's a standalone, liquor store, you can go into it, but you can't legally purchase. And if you don't provide sufficient ID to the satisfaction of the staff, they can legally refuse you. Mm-hmm. If not, there are consequences. You can go on into a restaurant or in a place that's selling food, but you can't order, and you can't go into what we call a nightclub or a bar. Mm-hmm. Okay. That probably is known by all, but just in case, well, now we know for sure.
Exactly.
The inspections, though. Well, go ahead before you. I was going to ask you about inspections and how often businesses are inspected.
Okay. Well, inspections are a little bit more complicated. Okay. And I spoke earlier about the inspections that are requested for businesses, getting liquor licenses, etc. But I would like the audience to appreciate the magnitude of what the DCI is overseeing. Mm-hmm. We have over 11,000 licenses within this very small island. And that's only trade and business licenses. For liquor licenses now, we have another 700 plus licenses. And these are all the responsibilities of the DCI to manage, license, inspect, to ensure that they are compliant with legislation. So with that said, with that many licenses or licensees to our businesses to inspect, what we have come up with in the department is a rotation, sort of, where names are pulled or licensees are pulled from our system randomly on a weekly basis. So our trade officers just get a bunch of numbers. These are the licenses that you're going to inspect this week. So we don't just go to our database and say, okay, we're going to go and inspect Dwayne today and we're going to inspect Winsome today, because that can be a very subjective exercise where persons may feel that you are targeting them. And that is not what we want anyone to feel. So if they pull names that have been inspected, say in the last rotation, the last week or the last month, they will then pull another rotation, because if that business has been inspected in the last month, there is no reason to inspect them again this month. And then that licensee may start to feel, well, I was inspected last month. Why are you inspecting me again this month? That you must be targeting me. So to avoid that from happening, we pull the names on a basis where it is random, so they don't get to choose which licensee they're going to inspect. And that is, I find, more effective. The other circumstances where which a business can be licensed is we receive a complaint from a member of the public that a business is operating outside of, or suspected to be operating outside of their conditions, because every licensee have specific conditions. So I'll give you an example. If you have a license that you are operating from your residential location, there are only certain things that you can do at your residence. For example, you can only do your bookkeeping, but you can't have customers coming and going from your residential location. So your neighbors may notice that you have customers coming all day, all night. They will call the DCI. I don't think Dwayne is operating within his license. It's causing disruption for the residential area. Then a trade officer will go out and investigate, because that is a concern. In a commercial space, there are not a whole lot of restrictions in commercial spaces, but we still do get complaints. For example, one of the restrictions on a commercial license will be you cannot advertise without the permission of the planning department. So you can't put your big sign on the walk on the sidewalk to advertise your sale or your business, because then you are blocking the sidewalk. The officers will come out and inspect. No, you are breaching the condition on your license, because you're not permitted to do that without the permission of the planning department. So those are the circumstances in which inspections are done.
Okay. So, Ms. Winsome, from the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate perspective, and we look at DCI, how does the two align? I mean,
well, the two align when it comes on to the use of Crown lands.
Okay.
Because what people think that in order to operate a business, a commercial activity, because that's what we usually mostly issue permits for, commercial activities, then definitely they'll have to have a trade and business license as well, because they're trading. So, when it comes on to Crown land, use of Crown land, both goes hand in hand.
Okay, so on Crown lands.
On Crown lands, because we only regulate the use of Crown lands. Anything that the Crown owns is what the Public Lands Commission is supposed to regulate.
Okay, maybe historically, and I'll ask, and since we've all been here for a while, we may remember way back when there were some public discussion as to how it used to be and what was transpiring. At or near the public beach, there were water sports activities, and this was way back when many were concerned about it. But there seems to be a commercial activities happening on that. Just for clarity, for something like that to happen on Crown land, whether it's at the public beach or from one of the public jetties, could that take place, and if so, under what conditions?
Well, first the Crown, we're like the landlord. That's what I tell them. Just refer to us like the landlord.
Right.
So the Crown owns the land. So first you'll have to get permission from the Crown to use the Crown land for that type of activity. And then after that, then you'll have to get permission to operate from DCI.
All right.
Yes.
And I guess using that example again, because historically it can help to inform, at Apollo Beach on the south side near where the establishment was, there were those who would say, well, the establishment is on private land operating. But increasingly they would, my words, sort of encroach. They put their benches and the like closer to the Apollo Beach side, and you sit under there, they'll bring their food and beverage over. But people were, must be, but for that to happen, you'd have to properly go through the landlord and DCI.
Yes, that's correct. So we all know where the Public Lands Act came from. I believe, if memory serves me correct, and during my research, remember I was at a different place before I came here. So my understanding is that there was an incident where, some people were operating on Crown land on 7 Mile Public Beach, to be specific, without having a license from DCI. So the matter went to court. And as such, in 2017, the Public Lands Act was enacted, or however you put it, and from there on, the Act requires that the Public Lands Commission is to be put in place. So we are still, because it's a new law, new department and everything, we are still in the education process. And, I'm really happy to be here, and hoping to be here a little bit more as we progress.
Indeed.
But the enforcement arm of things, because the Public Lands Inspectorate is the enforcement arm for the Public Lands Commission. So we have to work in tandem with DCI as well in order to be successful with making sure that we regulate the use properly of government land.
What I would imagine then, that this would probably be a case for us as a public to be informed, not just the vendors and the like, but for us to be informed and to help your offices to do the job that we're asking by bringing in information to you, and also being aware of it so that we understand. Like your example, if you have a license to operate from your premises, customers shouldn't be coming and going. But even if it's a commercial space, where is your signage? We would be the ones to help. What about, since it's restaurants and food service and the like, there are many of us that have deliver mobile type operations. We're familiar with it. How does that play in relative to DCI? So I have a business, I cook, and I'm going to bring food in my truck, my car, and I'm coming to job sites, I'm delivering to offices. How does that work relative to you?
The actual vehicle that you'll be using as your business location would have a license.
Okay.
However, for any license to be issued, there must be a location that is linked to that license. So maybe a food truck per se would they would have permission to use the food truck to deliver. However, their business location would likely be their residence. And on that license would be you can only do your administrative duties. You couldn't park up your truck at the side of your house and sell from the truck.
Right.
You will have, it's mobile, so you'll have to have a mobile license to be able to use your truck to deliver your food.
And maybe we'll ask this now, because not just in promoting our discussion today, increasingly a number of restaurateurs have shared with us that they find it, one, not just anti-competitive, but they find the concern and the potential impact on their sector. If someone is, I just use the words as two had said to me today, selling from their car trunk. Nothing to do with the quality of the food, but if this person allegedly doesn't operate to the same standards, may not have the food handling, so they may not have the licensing, but how do they ensure that their food,
and we're very interested to hear about those, Dwayne, because we do get a number of complaints about persons just selling food out of their truck, on the trunk of their car. And of course it is a concern, because how sanitary is that? Do you actually have a license to do that? And we've seen a number of persons who are probably out of a job or whatever else is happening with them. Extra money will cook, put things in the back of their truck or the back of their car and drive around to construction sites and sell this food. We have issued warnings to a number of those persons who have actually been doing that, because they actually have no license. So it is important for the public to be vigilant and let us know about that. And I've said they have been very helpful making us know these locations and actually went as far as giving us license plate numbers to say this is a car that comes to this construction site every day and is selling food from the back of their car. So we have issued several warnings for those.
All right. When we come back, let's talk about it, because I think as Ms. Benson was sharing, it's about education, but it's about us being safe and reputable, being civil and competitive. So after the break, maybe we can talk more about the implications that maybe we can ask about other things and have you share with us so that we are informed. All right, we'll take our headline news. When we return, we ask you to rejoin us.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins. The Committee for the Promotion of Research and Cayman Scholarship announces the book launch of The Cayman Islands History, Politics and Society, Essays in Honor of J.A. Roy Bodden. The event will be held on Tuesday, June 14th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Sir Vassal Johnson Hall at the University College of the Cayman Islands in Georgetown. Admission is free, and there will be a reception at 5:30 p.m. prior to the commencement of the book launch ceremony. In international news, monkeypox can be contained in countries outside of Africa where the virus is not usually detected, the World Health Organization says. More than 100 cases of the virus, which causes a rash and a fever, have been confirmed in Europe, the Americas, and Australia. That number is expected to rise, but experts say the overall risk to the broader population is very low. The virus is most common in remote parts of Central and West Africa. A court in Ukraine has jailed a Russian tank commander for life for killing a civilian at the first war crimes trial since the invasion. The captured soldier was convicted of killing Alexander Shelipov, a 62-year-old man, on February 28th. He admitted shooting Mr. Shelipov, but said he had been acting on orders and asked forgiveness of the man's widow. Many other alleged war crimes are being investigated by Ukraine. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Solins.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to Ms. Claudia Brady for joining us as Head of Compliance and Enforcement over DCI, and from the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate, the Chief Inspector, Ms. Benson Pendergrass. And I think maybe as I listen to you, we need to be mindful as a public that we need in this together. We need to serve, I think, as Ms. Claudia shared, people who are seeing things, concerned for the safety, but also the reputation and the sanitation sometimes of food, call. As we get into the discussion, if someone has a query or a complaint or a concern, how do they make that known first to DCI? I mean, what's the way?
Well, we take phone calls, we take emails, and these are various ways that people have contacted us in the past, by phone calls, emails, letters, because many persons who want to make complaints want to remain anonymous. So we have no issues with you just sending in an anonymous email or an anonymous phone call. We will not ask you your name if you prefer to remain anonymous. But we will certainly act on the information when it comes in. There are a number of persons who've actually called into us and said, well, I've complained about something. We don't get an update that you've actually dealt with it. But we also, and persons have to be mindful that even though you have made a complaint to us, we as an enforcement body and as a government department have to be also very careful with the information we also release about other persons we are dealing with, because we can become legally liable. So we will thank you for the information, appreciate that you've given the information. If needs be, we will call you back and say we have dealt with the matter, but that is as far as the information that we will give you. But we encourage anyone who sees anything that you're uncertain about or feel that may not look right, let us know about it, because we will always act on it.
What's the email if they want to send through either a complaint or query, draw something to your attention? How would they send it through?
Well, specifically, we have a number of emails, but I will give the one that is best to reach our enforcement officer, and it's enforcement@dci.gov.ky. That will go directly to our enforcement officers, including myself, and we will always screen that on a daily basis to see what information is coming in to us. They can also email me at cbrady@dci.gov.ky, and I will tend to pass it on to...
So enforcement@dci.gov.ky. Okay.
And there is also a general email box at info@dci.gov.ky. So they have 3 options there, and they have many more, because persons have actually gone to our website and actually emailed persons directly, because our email addresses are on the website. So if you find any email address there, you can email anyone.
And I'm hopeful as people listen that from what I'm getting is that we're looking at a safe, stable jurisdiction, that we want things to, we hear about the rule of law. We want things to be done in a way that positions us to be reputable, not just within our own country, but comparatively. So, Ms. Winsome, from that perspective, from the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate, if the general public, now for you, just so I understand, this has to be on public lands, Crown lands.
Crown lands.
And if they're not sure, because sometimes a land adjoins another land, and unless you know for sure, if they're curious or they have a query, they reach out to your offices. How?
Yeah, they can reach out to the inspectorate, because we have 3. As Claudia said, I'm going to give you 3 different emails. You can send your email directly to the Public Lands Commission at plc@gov.ky, or if it's strictly enforcement matters, that somebody wants to report something, of a breach, or, someone vending on Crown land without permission, or blocking a prescriptive access, they can email plcinspectorate@gov.ky.
Okay.
Or they can email me directly at winsome.prendergast2@gov.ky.
We have a query from one of our listeners asking on 2 things, and I was tempted to read it, but the person said this might sound like an epistle, so I'll free to paraphrase. It spoke to 2 things. One, the increasing use of the entrepreneurial spirit relative to mobile services, car washing in particular, on roadways and the like. Now, I'm mindful that a wonderful lady called in once and said, listen, they're washing in the street, and I was provide a hazard, but she was able to speak to the people, and it was resolved. Just people just need to realize, hey, be a little more considerate. So this first part of this email was asking, or this WhatsApp message was asking, in the case of washing of vehicles in either car parks or roadways or other spaces like that, is that something that we just look at and let it exist because people need to make a living? Is that something that...
Well, it's important to recognize the limitations of each enforcement agency.
Right.
For example, if a mobile car wash is washing in a parking lot, they have to have permission from the owners of that parking lot, because that's private property. Yeah, the DCI would not enforce something like that. Now, when they're washing on the road, now that becomes a police matter, because now there is some obstruction to traffic on the road, or they're causing some sort of hazard on the roadway. The police will then step in and take care of that, because that is an enforcement of the traffic law, where the DCI has no powers where that is concerned.
Okay. Not even, and I don't want it, because I think one thing I like here is people recognize people's desire to make a living, and nobody wants to be, as they say, bad-minded, but we also want to be safe. So in that instance, not to belabor it, whether the person has a license or whether the license is current, that occurs, that's a policing matter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, where DCI will step in, if you are licensed as a mobile service, you cannot go into the parking lot and set up shop, because that now becomes a permanent location. Mobile means you keep moving. We've had situations in the past where a mobile car wash set up at the end of a road. It's a dead-end road at the edge of a parking lot. And they would stay there all day, and persons will come to them for their cars to be washed. That is not what you're licensed for. So you're breaching your condition there under your trade and business license. So the DCI will step in for the mere fact that you are not operating a mobile license.
Well, I found it in relation to a number of public calls. A few of the facilities managers, the property managers had reached out to us, and prominent businesses, big parking spaces have published signs, none of this activity on their site.
No car wash.
But that is their private matter to enforce with the vendors.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have complaints where, car wash is being conducted on Crown Land. The last complaint was at the library. There's people who come there and Friday evenings and they just sit there and just wash cars.
And it's very sensitive as well because, for example, I work at JB. I want my car washed. I will call someone to wash my car. They would normally go across the street, say behind the old immigration building, wash my car, and they've left. It's a government facility. It's public facility, but they're washing my car. But then they're not setting, and they might stay there and wash several cars. But persons within the government building have actually called them to come and wash their vehicles.
Efficiency. Right.
Exactly. So government may at some point say to us, we don't want any cars being washed. And let me hasten to say this. Many persons who do not want mobile car wash to use their parking lot is because of the garbage that's left behind. It's very frustrating that they would have to go out there and get this parking lot cleaned because they may recognize as well that their tenants within their building have actually called this mobile car wash to come and clean for them. But then when they've left all sorts of garbage around. And it's frustrating for a landowner to come out and see this. So that is usually the basis for which businesses will say, do not use my parking lot for washing vehicles.
Okay. And I don't want to get off that too much, but one of our listeners, as we speak to Ms. Brady and Ms. Prendergrass, asking if we could ask of you if you inspect bathrooms in nightclubs as well. I just read it.
No, we do not inspect the bathrooms.
Okay.
That will usually fall under the remit of the Department of Environmental Health when they go to do inspections, and also the fire department, because they also have to inspect those areas for safety and the cleanliness of the bathroom, etc. So that does not fall. Now, if we do go to a location and we recognize certain things that we feel that comes within the remit of other departments, then we will usually pass it on to the other departments to go out and inspect.
But I gather then, as you listen to you more and more, this is us as a public, if we want a particular sort of standard within our society, we need to partner with the U.S. stakeholders to say, not to pick on a mobile car wash, because sometimes with our service, many of our cars will not be as clean as it is, right?
Definitely.
But if we see it occurring in on a public road, we need to speak out. The other question from one of the listeners were asking relative to, I'll just use the term, auto garages, people who operate in, whether they're doing border work and painting, sanding, and that sort of thing in residential areas. Where does that fall in relation to DCI?
If you're doing that sort of activity, the board would normally require that you have a commercial space for that. There would not usually be a license granted for that sort of activity in a residential location because, of course, there are health hazards. The smell of the paint, the sanding, those sorts of things, and also the disruption to the residents. So if anyone is aware of that happening, to let us know, because then we go out and inspect those areas, because as I said before, if you're operating from a residential location, your business license is linked to your residential operation. Your license will clearly say administrative uses only. But of course, if your business expand, you will on your license you will see you have to move to a commercial location.
All right. Before we go to the quick break, Ms. Winsome, when we come back, what else you want to share?
Back to the garage thing. I know that there was a question that was raised last time. Some of my colleagues were here from the Beautification Committee about someone calling about a garage on a school road. There is a garage there. There's Crown Land involved in it. We are working on it, but some locations are neighborhood commercial, and people live in the area, but commercial activities goes on. Right. So some people think that because people are living there, it is residential. It's not necessarily mean it's residential. It's commercial as well. It's a mixture. So I just want to make that clear.
Live and let live, right?
Yeah.
But understand. Okay. I really appreciate this, and this is where the education, and maybe as a people we appreciate. Let's pause and take this final break, and we'll come back. We'll continue the discussion.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Subway is serving up a special new sauce, bursting with flavor in every bite. The new Savory Collection is a tropical sweet and spicy sauce made with a combination of spices, habanero peppers, thyme, onion, black pepper, ginger, citrus juices, and molasses.
So good. Wow. Sensational. Delicious.
Subway's Savory Collection pairs perfectly with our oven roasted chicken or steak sub. Savor the flavor. For a limited time, only at Subway. Subway. Eat fresh.
If you care about your car's performance and fuel economy, you must fill up at Jose's Escape with the new Pier 93. Experts know that the higher the octane rating, the better your engine will perform. Pier 93 is the highest octane fuel available in Cayman. Protect your car against pre-ignition and engine knocks. Top up your tank now with Pier 93 at Jose's Rubis and enter to win an awesome track bike. But there's more. Jose's offers 2 lateral flow test kits for only $10. The best KN95 masks, 2 for $5. And 10 stylish black surgical masks are only $5. Share the love. Purchase Reflections gift certificates and enter to win the amazing Trek bike.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I'm very mindful as we speak to our guests in particular that sometimes the expectations of our civil servants probably unfounded, not realistic. And the demands on your jobs, for what it's worth, thanks very much. As we just shared, just casual during the break, some of the things that your work day, it must be a lot like the social workers and the physician. It's 24/7. So Ms. Claudia Brady and Ms. Vincent Prendergast, thanks very much. We did have a call off here that was asking about, gardeners and what was the leaf blowers? The blower, yeah. So Ms. Susan passed the information on to us. Where does that fit in? Not just the noise, but the debris and the like. Is that something for you guys?
No, that is not something that we would, and quite frankly, I have had situations with that where I'm driving by on the street and this big leaf blower is just blowing rocks all over my car. But at the end of the day, if you're doing gardening and you damage my vehicle, I mean, it's between me as the property owner and the owner of that business. Whether it be by a lawsuit or whatever it may be, but they're usually licensed to operate.
Right.
So, I mean, from DCI, we like to educate our licensees as well. And this sounds like something that we need to take back to our licensees that are gardeners to say, be mindful of this, because you can become liable in a civil action if you damage someone's property. But most of them are, probably all that I know of, are licensed to operate.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm thinking to the sense and sensibilities of us. I mean, as you said that, I'm thinking to just this morning, the fine gentleman, obviously very cognizant, but if he doesn't mind me saying, exhibiting a great sense of respect. I'm moving from one space to the next. He's attentive that I'm coming. He stops what he's doing and I pass by. Now, some of us are busy with what we're doing and inattentive, no reason to think otherwise. But I want to say publicly, that's a person that is mindful and exhibited good manners, so that was good.
And I think it's important for the business owners to recognize where they can become liable. But I think in the Caymanian community, we don't, our first thought is not to sue someone or become aggressive with someone. We try to drive away a little far away from the leaf blowers.
Honk your horn. I usually honk my horn.
So that you don't get rocks all over your cars. Exactly. But bearing in mind that a lot of these persons that are working for these gardening places are usually not, I don't want to pick on anyone, but not necessarily local persons. Mm-hmm. And, when a local person may see me driving by, they'll stop and have that courtesy. Yeah. Many persons within our community now don't have that level of courtesy and just continue without realizing, you're damaging someone's property.
Yeah. And that's why, I was thinking back to the fellow this morning, how very tentatively he stopped, I'm sure he's time conscious and he's get there, but he stopped, and not because it's me, but it's because of him. He said, come on by, and then he'd continue. Yes. But with that, from the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate, let's think of the public road, and let's use West Bay Road, for instance. There are these commercial properties, there are these condos and hotels. I'm sure that at one point, and hopefully there's no more, I've witnessed it. The fellow, there's a guy, he's blowing the blower, and he blows it from one side of the road into the next. That's a public road. If that is happening, is that...
As well, sometimes these things are so... there's no hard and fast rule, because I haven't seen any law to say that you can't blow leaves. And as what Claudia says, it's a courtesy in most instances. So these people work for the condominium. So normally if I get a complaint like that, I'll go speak to the condo, say, talk to your people. But the public lands and public road, it falls into so many different categories as it relates to, is it NRA, is it the police supposed to deal with it, is it public lands? But we just need the education process to keep going to say, we must be courteous, and
I think
be responsible.
Where the problem comes in there, Dwayne, is if you blow the leaf on the road and you leave it there, that now becomes a litter issue, which then becomes a police issue. Okay. Yeah. But many of these persons that are blowing, they're blowing it from one location to the other. Whether or not they're blowing on their own property is another question. Are you blowing it on someone else's property and leaving it on someone else's property? That comes now that you are now littering. So as Winsome said, and to reiterate what Winsome said, is education is the key. Yeah. Knowing your responsibility as a business owner, knowing your responsibility as a property owner, and how you can become liable, and be cognizant of that fact.
Well, as we talk more about it, Ms. Claudia, Ms. Winsome, we do have a caller joining us. If you're inclined, these headsets are fresh to sanitize and heavily comfortable. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Sterling. How are you?
And to you, my lady. How are you?
Pretty good, and good afternoon to you, panel.
Hi, good afternoon.
I've been listening to you guys off and on. And when you was mentioning the blowing and the courtesy and so forth, I'm going to tell you right now, that is not out here on our streets. People are blowing left, right, and center. Cars are passing, and they are blowing debris on people's vehicles. And I really, truly believe something needs to be done, because we have a lot of lawn service on this island, and there's a lot of business going on, and it's not fair for someone to come and work in someone's yard and then blow it into my yard, vice versa. If something needs to be put in place for these blowers, really and truly, I don't know what you all, I don't know what even the right word is right now. It's probably not even as half of a problem to you guys, but it needs to be looked into.
All right, well, thanks. And as Ms. Claudia shared, sometimes when we see something for clarity or just for action, perhaps reach out to either the Public Lands Commission Inspectorate or DCI directly. Hey, thanks very much, Mom. The courtesy as a caller shared, I mean, some of us are courtesy and exhibited, like the gentleman earlier, he did without asking, and even without me recognizing. More and more of us like that. But there are some, for whatever reason, just want to get the job done, and we don't see the consequences being significant until there's an issue.
Exactly.
So,
but from the DCI perspective, and going back to the point about education, even though we are a licensing body and an enforcement body, we take great pains in educating our licensees as well. So part of our exercise going forward is sort of the business owners who are gardeners.
Right.
These are the complaints we are getting, and you need to be, let your employees know. You need to be more mindful.
Right. We understand that on the legislation there are certain penalties, and I want to ask about that, but Ms. Susan reminds us we have another caller. Let's take this other call. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome in the studio, Ms. Claudia Brady and Ms. Vincent Prendergast. Good afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon, Dwayne. Peter here. I just tuned in and I only heard a little bit, so I don't really know who your panel is, but I want to say this in terms of public nuisances. Got to be the people that drill the wells. They flood roads with brackish water, sometimes stinky water and stuff, and it's allowed to go on. Roads are flooded for half a day while they're doing their drilling, and I think they ought to be coming up with a device to suck up that water as they pump it out of the ground or wherever it's coming from, because that is really, it's damaging cars, and there seem to be no restrictions on them. And that's all I have to say. I'll listen to the radio.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I appreciate that, because as a caller, there are probably many things. First to you, Ms. Vinson, whether it's a private development or whether it's a public road and they're drilling these wells for drainage for future, how does that play into this whole discussion?
That's a sticky one.
No, it's a sticky one. I think they call it.
It's a sticky. Well, I say sticky.
I know. I'm just teasing.
Sticky water. But if it's, as I said again, we only regulate the use of public lands, anything that the Crown owns. As it relates to private development or whatever going on, that has to do with planning. When it comes on to the NRA, if they are digging deep wells for drainage and stuff like that, then the NRA will deal with it. I do not know if there is any way that, or any suggestion that we can gather the water that is being dug from these wells, or is it something else, if someone can come up with that and make a recommendation, because I have not seen it. So whether it's public land or private or the road or whatever, the water usually subsides after a while. But I understand what the gentleman is saying, and it is not nice at times, but we're open to suggestion as well. We don't know it all, So we as what we say, we are stakeholders and partners with the public. So they can complain. We do appreciate they complaining, and we do appreciate suggestions as well to see that we can look into what we're doing.
All right. So in closing, and maybe we can ask, and certainly the invitation is always if it's beneficial. We saw something recently with the what's it, one of the bus shelters or something being used, and people are becoming creative in different ways. Are there particular penalties on the trade business license law for non-compliance? I mean, if you go above the speed limit, or you drive without your seatbelt, or you're on a phone, the traffic law takes care of that. Yeah. In this instance?
Well, yes. DCI has two levels of enforcement. We have the ability to issue tickets, and after a second offense means you are charged and taken to court. Okay. So we do have what we call a ticket book here, similar to that of a traffic ticket. Yeah. But it carries penalties anywhere from $100 to $2,500 for various offenses. So you'll have, say, not carrying on a business with a license, it's $500. First ticket, $500. However, if you refuse to license your business after you've been given the first ticket, you're charged to go to court, and that can carry a penalty of up to, I think, $2,000 or more, and there can be an imprisonment imposed. However, the administrative fines that are on our tickets, there is no prison penalty or anything of that nature. You don't get a conviction on your record because it is an administrative fine. So those are the options we have right now. We have issued some tickets. I must say that with the number of licensees that we have on island, the number of tickets we have been issuing have been minimal, because we also do give warnings, if I can share some numbers with you. Yes. So in 2021, and I did say to you earlier, there are 11,000 plus trade business licenses. In 2021, we inspected 1,955 businesses. We issued 2 tickets for various reasons. I don't have in my head now what those were for. And we issued 86 warnings because we do give persons who are trying to operate an opportunity to get their license. And on many occasions, once we've gone out and done a warning, persons have come in and applied for their trade and business license. The process is very simple. It's not very expensive. It's $75 if you're applying for if you're a micro or small business, and you can even apply online to get your license. Up to the end of April this year, we have already inspected 805 businesses. We've issued 1 ticket and we've given 32 warnings. So, we're out there inspecting, and I would say 99% of the businesses are compliant, which will show you from the numbers that we don't find a lot of breaches of the legislation. I think what we mainly would like to focus on, even though we have responsibility to still inspect those that are licensed, ensure they're operating within their conditions, because businesses become creative. What new can I do? And not recognizing that they do have conditions on their license. Our main focus is really those persons that are operating without licenses.
Yeah. Well, this is where, and as you shared, we want to be compliant. We are, and if you have questions, we can always reach out. Any closing thoughts or anything you wish to share, Ms. Winsome, from the PLC inspectorate perspective?
Okay, the most important one that I wish to say is that in order to operate from Crown Land, a commercial activity on Crown Land, you're required to have a vendor permit. If it's non-vendor, what we call non-vendor permit are those persons who are operating like NPOs and stuff like that, is not for profit. Then they'll only pay the application fee, and then it's free. But you have to get permission from, and failure to get permission from the Commission to Vend from Public Land, you're not only facing our fines. Our fines start from $250 to $2,000, for breaches of the Public Lands Act. So, and then you're going to get a fine again from DCI. So you're going to be fined both ways for not having our license to operate, a permit, and then not having a license from DCI. So you can imagine one small man being hit with a fine of $4,000. I mean, that's not nice. So we're not here to, mainly to prosecute. But, what we're saying, if you're not sure, just call or visit one of our offices, and we'll be happy to walk you through the process and assist you with applying for your license.
All right. Well, thank you. Ms. Claudia?
And Dwayne, just to close off, to say there are various businesses that are exempt under the TBL law as well.
Right.
And people should understand from holding a license, and if they do so want to call the department, we will give them a list. Those that are fishermen, farmers, various, persons like that are exempt from holding a license. But we will be there to answer the questions if they so choose.
Well, let's get informed and educate that you shared, and maybe together we can understand that we are stakeholders. So thanks to individually, to both of you, but collectively.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, ma'am. We're hoping that that'll happen very soon. You have a lot to share.
Thank you for having us, Dwayne, and we'll be back.
I hope so. It's a pleasure, and if I may publicly invite you to have a wonderful, safe, productive, and enjoyable week. As the rest of our listeners. Got some good things in store for you for the rest of the week, so the full schedule, and tomorrow there's an interesting discussion slated for the whole day, but towards the end of it, so you're going to have to join us then. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is